What can a mom living with chronic Lyme disease share with you about building a sustainable skincare company? On today's interview conversation with Stephanie DePisa, we're going to talk about this. Stephanie launched Solara Suncare at the age of 40 with zero beauty industry experience, and she's built a successful brand that's sold everywhere between Target, Neiman Marcus, and other high-end stores. But her journey with Lyme disease taught her three critical things about building a business that lots of entrepreneurs learn the hard way. Today, she's sharing exactly what happens when you try to push through chronic illness symptoms while scaling and growing your business, and why she's choosing to turn down major growth opportunities that would expand her business way too quickly, and the strategy that lets her build a profitable business without burning out her body. If you're tired of feeling like you have to choose between your health and your business success, there are going to be these three insights that you're going to be able to walk away with that will change the way you think about growing a sustainable business, especially if you're living with a chronic illness, going through burnout, transitioning in different stages. This conversation and this interview is for you. Can't wait to hear what you think. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe to the show. I am so excited to have Stephanie on the show. We are going to dive into some stuff, I feel like.
We are.
I am so excited to have you on. Please tell us how you would describe yourself.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's great to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you. Myself, well, I'm a mom first and foremost. I'm a mom and a founder. I'm a wife, a sister. So I wear a lot of hats like many of us do. So I would describe myself as like kind of the ultimate multitasker here at this point in where I am in my journey.
Yes, and when I was researching and learning about you and your business, I was just like, this woman has done some amazing things. You have built a
Thank
business
you.
during some really big pivots in your life and in the world even. I think
True.
you launched as Solara during the pandemic or right before it or during that time. Tell us about your empire. That's what I want to call it. It feels
Ah!
like an empire.
Well, thank you. That's the ultimate compliment. We'd love for it to be one day. But you're right. I have Solara came to me during an interesting pivot in my life and in my health. And then it took us a couple years to build it and formulate it. And when we did put it into the universe, it was late 2019. So it was right before the pandemic, which was, we were only a few months in. We'd only soft launched when the whole world closed down. So we have definitely been through a lot over the last 5 years.
Yes. And I think what's so cool about this is that this wasn't like what you had been doing. Like this was kind of a pivot point in your life, right?
It really was prior in my prior life, I'll call it, in my 20s, I worked in New York and I worked in the agency world doing marketing and PR for an agency working with a lot of big brands, mostly in CPG, no beauty brands.
Mm.
And I left that world behind when I had my first son. And I decided that I wanted to stay at home and to give that a try and to raise my kids. And I have 3 kids, and that same son just graduated high school yesterday, but along that journey, long before his graduation, I kind of came up with the idea for Solara, and I was doing some consulting work, while I was staying at home, so I
Mm.
hadn't kind of fully left the world of, PR and marketing, but I was doing it at night, when they were taking naps. I was, really just as a consultant, but once I started to ruminate on the idea of Solara, I decided to jump into that full force. And that transported me to a completely different next step in
Yeah.
my journey. And that's led me to where I am today, which is obviously this is a full time role, and we're building every single day.
Yeah. I mean, I love when I have moms on the show because I joke, I'm like, I have fur babies, but I know it's different. Like, I know it's different. My mom, when I was growing up, had a daycare and I used to help her with that. And then I just can imagine the capacity conversation we have a lot when managing chronic illness, and then
Right,
also having children and all of that while you're building.
right.
I'm gonna keep calling it an empire because I feel one day I'm just gonna walk into your store and there's like, so this is your space, like, and everyone
I
knows.
love
Like, I
you for
just
this.
love
Let's
it.
manifest that. I'm
I
here for
love
it.
it. I love it. How have you been able to manage your capacity day to day, chronic illness? And let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit first of all. First of all, what is the chronic illness that you've been kind of navigating through your journey?
Yeah. So actually, when I first started kind of coming up with the idea of Solara and working on what that looked like, I actually was going through some significant health issues
Um,
that for a very long time doctors could not put a label on it. They
mm,
just couldn't figure it out. And turns out I actually had both Lyme disease and some co-infections.
mm,
Babesia was the kind of my
mhm,
co-infection. And that really truly threw my whole life for a loop,
mm,
and it's been an ongoing journey because it was a late stage situation by the time I found the right folks to kind of
mm.
figure it out and help me through it. I'm very lucky and happy and proud to say that I made it through those tough parts for
Yeah.
sure, which I know not everybody has that same story.
Mhm.
But it is something that persists, long after the diagnosis and long after you've kind of made it through that initial rough patch. So that's what I was dealing with in that moment and continue to deal with even today.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I wanna shout out the Lyme community because one of the first guests that I had on my show that talked about chronic Lyme, that community is amazing. Like, I like,
It's
the
so
posse,
true.
I call them, like, the posse. Like, they are literally the posse. They are so kind and
Yes.
inclusive of not just chronic Lyme, because there are so many co-infections that are
Right.
amplified because of Lyme, right? And
That's right.
that community has just one of the first communities that asked me to come and speak at an event. Like, they've just been amazing community, and I don't have Lyme. Like, I'm like, I
Right.
just support women who do. So have you found support through sharing your story or connecting with those resources in your own journey?
I have, and I could not agree with you more that the Lyme community is incredible, and I did not discover that community until after I kind of
Mm,
was working through some of the challenges that I had early on. Because it was so many years ago, I wasn't as much in social media and
yeah.
online as I am today. And so I really went through it trying to find people who I could connect with that really understood. And I was lucky enough living in the New York City area to
Mm,
find a couple of those people. But as time has passed, I've found so many more people that we're really all so interconnected. And that is one of the great, wonderful things about social media is that you're able to see that you're not alone. And there are some amazing advocates, like outside of Global Lyme
yeah.
Alliance and Project Lyme, which are amazing. Like there are people like Ali Moresco
Hmm.
and the Tick Chicks,
Yeah.
that are really out there every single day, sharing the message, connecting people. And I think it's such an important part of a healing journey to know that you're not alone and to share resources. And
Yeah.
so I wish I had discovered that early on. And now, thanks to you, I'm open to sharing my story a little bit
Mhm.
more. I never realized anybody would care that it would really be such an important thread of where I am today. But the more I speak about it, the more I realize that there's so many people that are dealing with similar things on every level.
Yeah.
Maybe not Lyme, maybe it's celiac, maybe right.
Yeah.
There's so many things, and if we can all help each other and feel less alone in the journey, it's incredibly powerful to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about it because I'm always surprised and also nervous sometimes to talk to, you know, business owners because there is kind of, I'm hoping I'm changing this. I'm hoping the community
You
and the
are.
world of women who live with chronic illness, because we already feel like we have enough stacked up against us as women in general, right? Let's not add
Right.
on the fact that we got some health issues that are affecting maybe our capacity or our energy today, and to talk about it openly.
That's
But
right.
Do you feel like going through what you've gone through and still going through has actually added to the reason why your business is successful and why you have found, the systems that you need in order to make it work?
Yeah, I 1,000,000%, I think yes, and I feel like, when you're in the moment, you're like, "Why am I going through this?
Yeah.
Like, why?" And now I kind of feel like, well, now I'm starting to understand it, and my own personal, like, experience with Lyme, I was very fortunate enough after going through many doctors that didn't know what it was to find a few that did, and one of them in particular, Dr. Pamela Yee, I can't say enough good things about, but really opened my eyes to this world of integrative medicine and
Mm,
integrative healing. So, not just all natural, like a
mhm.
mix of conventional and
Yes.
homeopathic and all kinds of things to help treat and rebuild the immune system. And it was there that I learned about ingredients that
Mm,
I actually use in our products today. And it was there that I learned that what I put in my body and on my body actually matters a lot
mm.
to my healing journey.
Yeah.
For inflammatory purposes, for many reasons. And so if it wasn't for that experience, I don't think our formulations would have ended up as, at the time they used the word clean.
Mm,
We're always careful with those kind of words because it's not like a regulated term,
yeah.
but it informed us to take out some of the very common sunscreen ingredients that are known to be disruptive to our endocrine system,
Yeah.
build up in our bloodstream, cause inflammation, all things that people with chronic illness have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Inflammation is like, a huge one. And so I do think it's informed that incredibly. And it's what sets our brand apart is
Mm.
that we do have a North Star. Sunscreen is such a popular category right
Yes.
now. People are jumping right into it because it's trendy. And but this has really been our mission from day one 5 years ago.
Mm.
So I think because of that, we have a very loyal community
That's
and can
amazing.
continue to be a part of other people's healing journey too.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought, like, how this journey has reflected into the way you approached products, like
Right.
creating a product that affects our bodies. You know, there's not a lot of, how do I say this in the most correct way I can say? There's a lot of brands that don't care a flip about what's in their products and how it affects the endocrine system, especially when it comes to women, right? It's
Right.
just like there has been a lot of research in medical world comparatively to male versus
Right.
to women. It's the same thing in the beauty industry and the wellness industry. One of my good friends, Nitika Chopra, she talks about this a lot about how we're just supposed to take it. Like, we're just supposed to
Right.
take it. And so for you as a founder and as the creator and, like, the formulating these products,
Right.
what has been something that's been eye-opening that you would think more people should consider when they're considering creating a product, knowing it's going on a woman's body?
Yeah, I wish more people would ask exactly that question, and I know there's, like, a variety of schools of thought.
Mhm.
The cosmetic chemist might have a completely different
Right.
opinion than I have, or maybe a dermatologist might also disagree with my perspective, but the way I see it is that I'm not a fan of saying that chemicals are bad. I
Right.
don't think they are. I think there's plenty of amazing chemicals, everything's a chemical,
Yeah.
that are wonderful. So we should never label it as natural versus not. But I will say, I wish more testing would be done on specific types of ingredients
Um,
that are known to be endocrine disruptive,
mm,
specifically for women. Um, a category that I look at besides sunscreen, obviously, I feel that way. Fragrance is another one, right? Like
mhm,
little things like that where they say, oh, no, no, it's safe. It's safe at the use levels that we are using them at. But the truth is, I personally believe all of it builds up in our body. And
mhm.
so, yeah, this one has a little bit, and this one has a little bit, and this one. But when you add it up
Over time.
in one single day
Mhm.
of all the things, and then over time, all the things, I think we do have to take a bigger look at the trends
Yeah.
of women's health now versus 10 years ago. We're dealing with so many more challenges with hormones and infertility and things like that, that I think overall, we should be encouraging tests and on things that we thought previously were completely fine and safe.
Yeah.
It's
I
opening Pandora's box, I
I
know,
know
but
it is a huge conversation. I mean, it really is.
I mean, it really is.
But I definitely appreciate you sharing that because I think the point of me asking that question and love your answer is bringing awareness to where whatever spaces we're navigating, these are the type of questions we need to be asking to create awareness
Absolutely.
around having these conversations and actually having research being done. Because if we don't know that
That's
this
right.
is even something to think about, no one's gonna care. It's like, I was listening to a podcast episode recently, and it was with, my favorite girl, Megan, Duchess of Sussex right now, like, I cannot get enough of her, and Sarah Blakely, and they were talking about, I wanna say they were talking about the industry as far as, like, shoes. Just
Okay.
women's shoes, right?
Right.
And she was watching something on, like, CBS and a Good Morning America show, and it was, like I think it was some famous designer who's a man who was, like, saying basically, I don't want a shoe that is comfortable for a woman, like, if that happens, like, I don't wanna be in business if my shoe is comfortable. And I
Right.
thought, "How nice
Oh.
for you to say because you don't have
Oh.
to wear them." Like, how nice,
Mm.
what a thing, and I think in general, we have a lot of these products, to your point, that we have that
Right.
because they're not wearing them. They're not collectively putting all of these things on to even think, "Oh, this is probably not healthy long term." We have
Right.
to advocate for ourselves. So I love that you shared, like, yeah, what
Absolutely.
you did. So
Yeah,
thanks.
or at least ask the questions,
Yeah.
like I said, I know in the world of beauty, there's a lot of disagreement
Mm,
between, say, someone on my end that would be like, I'm so conscious of specific ingredients, and maybe perhaps a cosmetic chemist that is
mhm.
looking at the science and the data from that perspective. So, there's multiple ways of approaching it. But I think if you're someone like we are that has had a health need or has had a challenge to overcome, where looking at those things and removing them from our day to day where it has had healing effects, I think you have to question
Mm.
the overall picture of long term,
Yeah, that's
long term effects.
yeah, long-term
And
effects.
nowadays, they're being used younger and younger and
Yeah,
younger. We're seeing all the teenage girls or like young preteens,
yeah.
getting into the world of beauty at a much earlier time frame with not a lot of restriction on what's being put in the product or on
So
their
true.
skin. So
So true.
just yeah, if we just educate people, people
Mhm.
should be able to make whatever choice that they
Yeah.
choose is right for them. They should just be aware,
Yeah,
right? I think
exactly,
that's
exactly.
my only thing. Just be aware and then make the decision that's right for you. Do I have a cocktail on occasionally on Friday nights? Yes,
Yes!
100%.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like about what's balance in your life and what makes sense in your life. But I do think there are things that we're putting in our body and on our skin multiple times a day, every single day. And that really should get a little extra scrutiny, in my personal opinion.
I feel you. I think those of us with chronic illness understand the collective
Right.
load of things, right? When it comes to capacity, when it
That's
comes to
right.
stress, we understand that, oh, you didn't just wake up with a chronic illness today, or you didn't just have a flare up today. Like
Right.
there's been layers and layers, and we have become much more aware about those things. And so the way we
You're
see the
right.
world right, is a
No, you're
lot
right.
different than if you are not living with that and one day all of a sudden waking up with a chronic illness and realizing, "Oh, no, this happened over time."
That's exactly
Right.
right. And sometimes over long periods of
Yeah.
time where you can then not really put a,
Yeah.
finger on exactly what may have caused it in the
Yeah.
first place. So, yeah, I agree.
I think what's really interesting about your story, Stephanie, is that you did this in the middle of your life. Like, at
I
this point of
did.
your life, I just turned 38, and I was thinking I'm kind of pivoting in a way in my business, and I was thinking if I was coming from a corporate environment, And then I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a business." My husband would look at me like, "What are you talking about, chick?
No,
Like,
don't
don't
do
do
it.
it." So, like, what has been some of your like, what was the motivation? And then also, was
Yeah.
there fears around doing this at this point
Oh,
of your
yes.
life?
Completely. So I really started it as kind of a mom on a mission. I have 3 kids, like I mentioned, and 2 of them actually have adverse skin reactions to chemical sunscreen. They're the kids that get the burning, the itching, the
Mm,
rash. And so we were on vacation one year and I was putting it on my son, a very popular spray, over and over and over, thinking that's what you're supposed to do,
yeah.
right? And it really didn't end well. It ended up in the doctor's office and the dermatologist, and that's where I really learned about the way that sunscreen works
Mm,
and how it does the chemical sunscreen absorbs and it builds up into the body. And if you have sensitive skin, if you have autoimmune issues, whatever your case may be, it can then cause a reaction that's unpleasant. And so that's really where the idea came from. And
mhm.
back then, so we launched 5 years ago, 2 years it took us to formulate. So we're talking like a good 7 to 9 years ago when this
Yeah,
was a
wow.
problem for me and he was little, but there wasn't a lot on the market.
Mm,
We didn't invent zinc oxide. It's been around forever. I mean, we all had it in the 80s and put on the
mm,
bright colors like lifeguard zinc, but it wasn't pleasant. It's like toothpaste and white. And so I just was trying to find a solution and I couldn't find one I loved. And so I said, oh, I think I can maybe let me see what I can do. And so I kind of stumbled on it. I didn't set out saying I really want to own my own business one day. And I stumbled into it and through a lot of research realized I wasn't the only one with the problem. And then
mm.
I decided to kind of try to solve it for my family. And when we launched it, it really like it must have other people must have been able to relate
Yeah.
because we really gained quickly a following and retail interest, and then it kind of grew from there. So it was like almost
Mm.
like an accidental, entrepreneurship, but it's been a wild, wild ride
I
for
can't
sure.
imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
and such a different I mean, you've been in business and you've been so first you formulated I'm sure you worked
Yes.
through like, formulating the product, finding the right before you came to like the market, if you will, with the product,
Right.
right? And so
That's right.
while you were building and testing this,
Hmm.
what kind of like mind drama that you have around, okay, is this gonna work? Am I crazy? Like, were there those thoughts and how did you work through them?
1,000,000%. In fact, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have those thoughts every single day.
Mm,
And I think anybody that owns any business whatsoever, whatever it is, probably has those thoughts at least 10 times a day. Because the highs are highs and the lows are lows, and your day can look just like this. And
mhm,
I think for me, that was something I didn't know, right? And
mm,
so you kind of learn it very fast, and then you strap in for the ride.
yeah,
But it's definitely not easy. It's not for the weary, that's
yeah,
for sure. These are things that perhaps I didn't realize, kind of entering it in the way that I did. I never owned my own business before
mm,
outside of consulting. And so it truly was from the ground up. I was learning it, but trial by fire,
yeah,
and I don't come from the industry. And
right,
that's the other piece, which I think, to be honest with you, was a superpower in the moment
mm,
because you don't know what you don't know. And so you continue to push and push and push on things that maybe if you'd been in the industry for a while and you kind of get a little jaded, right?
yeah,
Formulation being one of them.
yeah,
We kept hearing, you can't do that. You can't do that.
mm.
And we're like, no, 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 you can, and we figured it out. But yeah, it was a long road. That's for sure.
I can't imagine. I mean, what I hear in that is like determination and also
Yes.
just like this is it seems like because it was a personal mission of like I have to make this work even if it's just not like for my kids. I know that like my kids have this and they're dealing with this and I might be dealing
Right.
with this. Like, was there a part of you in this, industry, especially of all
Mhm.
industries? I feel like anything
I
like
know.
skincare, beauty, it's like the one of the hardest industries in general to like do anything in.
It is.
So
It is.
what was your motive? Like, what was your constant like grounding foundation of like, "This is hard as heck, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep going."
Yeah, I think it was the core of why I even wanted to do it in the first place, which
Mm.
is why I think, like I said, as the category explodes right now,
Mhm.
trend-wise. Like, people look at data and they're like, "It's the fastest going category in skincare. Let me hop on the bandwagon."
Yeah.
But for us, like, genuinely, there was a reason that I really wanted to solve this problem for my kids, and then the more research that I did, the more outside professionals that we got involved. I'm not a formulator, right? So
Mhm.
we have an amazing chemist, dermatologists, estheticians, holistic medical doctors. Like, we really put together a team of people that felt the same way. And the more I realized some of these ingredients are not good for us. Like,
Mhm.
so for me, that was really where I was like, I cannot give up on this
Mhm.
because the proof is there. Even the FDA right now is reevaluating some of the sunscreen filters it allows here in the United States,
Mhm.
which the Europe doesn't allow,
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot
And
of that.
so
Yeah.
right. And so I think it just really fueled me of like, wait, we've got like this is not right. Like,
Mhm.
we have to find a way through it. And I've learned a lot over the years, things that I was really concerned about or had a problem with early on, I've come to learn through research and data maybe weren't as scary as I thought and vice versa. So
Mm.
it's evolved through the years, but I think that's what's kept me getting up every day, day
Yeah.
after day, and I get some of the messages that I get from our customers
Mm.
are life-changing. Like, I'll hear from someone that has chronic illness of how this is the only product they can use that doesn't give them a rash on their face,
Mm.
or someone that went through skin cancer and Mohs surgery and trusts our products, you know? So for me, like, it makes you feel like, okay, there is a need for this and we're solving that need for someone. And as long as we're doing that, I feel good about it, and makes the harder days a little easier.
Mm.
Right,
Yeah,
because
because
there's
there's
some hard
gonna be
days.
hard
There are some
days.
hard
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
It is not sunshine and roses every day. Like, Instagram definitely
Yes.
feels that way,
Mhm.
when you see all the entrepreneurs launching things, it looks, like, so glamorous and amazing, and
Yeah.
not a lot of times do people show the peek behind that curtain is sometimes not beautiful, so
Yeah, and that is so true, and, we keep it real and legit on this show, like,
Yes, you
you
do. That's
know
why I was excited to talk to you, like, let's just be real with each other
like,
because 'cause we're not in it alone, we're not.
no, no, and I think, for me, because I talk to a lot of business owners, there's a handful of business owners that I feel like they have, in a way, have had a relatively smooth,
Right,
um go of business. But the majority
right,
of people have that roller coaster, like,
yeah,
business itself. And I think,
right,
to your point, like Instagram and just I think the way we've been taught about business by other business gurus, if you will, gives us the
right,
impression sometimes that the ups and downs really aren't that bad. They don't really happen
right,
as often as we think they do, and that you have it wrong. And that's why
right,
it's not working versus like, no, we're all still trying to figure this out, especially if
right,
you've never done it before.
that's right.
I wonder too, Stephanie, if in your life, like being a mother and then living with chronic illness, I know with chronic illness, there's definitely like, "I didn't expect that. I didn't know that. Okay, I thought I had it right, but
That's
I
right.
definitely gotta have it right now."
Right,
Did having that kind of prerequisite before you started building this support
yeah.
you in the really hard times?
I think so. I definitely think so because when you are dealing with something like we do with chronic illness, I feel like every day you're fighting for
Yeah.
something. Every single day, you're fighting maybe for a doctor to hear you.
Mm.
You're fighting to find the solution that works for you that maybe, didn't work for other people. Like, I think there's always something that you're trying to, like, overcome. And so it makes you tough, it
Yeah.
makes you tough.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think in that respect, it's definitely prepared me in a lot of ways and even mentally, because being an entrepreneur can be very lonely.
Mm.
it can be, and so can having chronic illness. Like
Yes.
you can feel very isolated and alone, and you find ways through that through community and through research and all the things. And so I think there's some synergy there,
Yeah.
maybe that I only just realized saying that out loud right now that I was like, oh, I never really thought about that, but it's true. They
Mhm.
both can be kind of lonely journeys, but also rewarding when you get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that when you're dealing with chronic illness and you're an entrepreneur or any profession really, but especially the highs and the lows, I've noticed for me have become harder because I sometimes ignore the signs
Mm.
of when I start to know the times I need to rest, or I know the times that things are getting a little haywire, what stress does. Um, And then because of that, I think it exemplifies even more my symptoms, right? Like when
Mhm.
I stop listening to myself,
Yeah.
and I have been not listening to myself right now,
Mm.
so that's the other side of the equation is like I think it can also take its toll
Yeah.
maybe a little quicker or in a bigger way,
Mhm.
than someone without chronic illness, perhaps.
Yeah, no, yes.
Right?
Like, yes,
Right?
I'm curious to
Mhm.
know, is that because of where you are in life and business that you have found yourself ignoring what you know within yourself? Like, "No, I probably need this, but I'm going to do this instead." Is there a pressure from the outside or whatever that's adding to the way you're moving through the world right now?
Yes, I
Mm,
think yes. I think, without a doubt, for sure, because we for in my case, like, we're still a family-owned brand by choice,
yeah.
and so we still have a lean and mean team by choice right now. We've not ventured out into the world of venture capital or private equity. We get the calls all the time, but
Mhm,
for now, this is the right fit. But because of that choice, a lot does fall um, on my shoulders, right?
mhm,
Because this is our life savings.
mhm,
This is everything that our family has, put in and believes that it's going to be something, and it has been. But because of that, I think the pressure is definitely there for no days off and no,
mm,
so I have to really constantly remind myself because my personality is to just keep going, keep going.
mm,
It's just another hour. It's just another meeting. It's just, I'm not going to miss my kids anything. Right. And
mhm,
so I'm doing the call from the car and the way, and not having that downtime to recharge and relax,
mm,
does take its toll
yeah,
for sure. And I have not been listening to that. We're in our peak season. So to me, every moment feels like a missed opportunity.
mm,
But to my body, every moment that I miss is like a little fire that gets ignited. And over
yeah,
time, not
yeah.
good.
Do you feel
Yeah.
like in this season right now, in this space right now, that
Mhm.
there's anything in the earlier version of your business, like before you got to this space, that you're looking at implementing to give you more of that capacity to be able to say no without fear of like, okay, this is the end of
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a couple of things. I think in the beginning, sort of I don't say like the naivete,
Mm,
like of not, being as aware or focused on some of the external elements, like whether it's retail partners being the gold standard or
mm,
specific, milestones financially, all the things. Like in the beginning, it was just like, let's put this into the universe and see what happens and
mhm,
take things as they come and be like very strategic. But then at one point, it grew so fast, and you're
mhm,
like, say yes to everything, and
mhm,
we want to be in every big retailer and and that comes with a price. So I
mm,
think what I've been trying to do over the last 6 to 9 months is always a pivot, right?
mm,
Is go back to our roots and say,
mm,
wait a minute, maybe we to be successful, we don't need to be in every store in all of America where we are today, right?
yeah,
Like we have a lot of ways that you can define success, and
mhm,
maybe getting back to that. And that has been helpful because saying no sometimes is quite freeing, because
yes,
we were saying yes to everything for a long time.
yeah.
Um, and it stresses the system, right? Like,
Yes.
The
Yes.
business system, the personal system, the whole system.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, and asking for help.
yes.
That's the other thing. Like, we're now growing enough where we can hire some people full time, and relinquishing some of that responsibility has been very freeing.
Yeah, yeah.
To open up a little bit of space for
Mhm.
maybe a meditation in the morning, or,
Yeah,
things I'm working on, Nikita.
yeah.
I'm working
No,
on
I
them.
get it, it's 'cause, I'm curious when you first started your business, were you still, like, were you still really going through chronic illness? Like, were you aware that it was chronic Lyme? Was it or were you kinda like, "Oh, we know it's chronic Lyme, now we're finding our tools to deal with it," while you, like, started building Solara?
Such a good question. I actually started building Solara and took a whole year off.
Ah,
So we really would have launched in 2018 if Lyme hadn't changed my journey.
gotcha.
So I was starting to formulate and come up with the idea and everything many years ago, and it was during in that time I was like, that's when I was dealing with maybe the worst of the worst, and
Mm,
and I didn't know it. I didn't know it. The
mm,
doctors thought the number of diagnoses that I had were wrong were scary. I
yeah,
mean, some of the things that they thought I had or needed to treat me for, and so that was a whole year of wrong decisions
mm,
medically, and that paused all the Solara work because I
yeah,
couldn't. If you had to ask me then if I'd ever have a business, I'd say, "Oh gosh, there's no way." I couldn't even think. I couldn't.
yeah,
My brain didn't work at all, and so I was like on a roll, and then it just like screeching halt. My
mm,
body just didn't couldn't do it, and then as I got further down in my healing journey, I think it inspired me even more of like,
yeah,
I don't want to just make a zinc sunscreen. Now we're going to make something that's good for us. Like, before, I didn't
yeah,
know all these other ingredients that I didn't want. And then went through this whole process and spent a lot of time with Dr. Yee and Dr. Cameron and learned. And so I think it was all happened for a reason,
mm,
because the formulations we came up with after the fact were very different than where they
yeah,
started before I paused.
yeah,
So it's funny how the world works.
yeah, and, it's really cool too because what I hear in that is that and I do this on the show, so
Yeah.
you might be like, "Nikita, whoa." It sounds like in that space of being like, "Oh, we were on this momentum, we were going," and then your body said, "No, we're not. We have to
No.
pause." That the best part of what needed to come into the world happened when you did, when you
Yes.
reset, when you took a moment to really prioritize, "Okay, I there is nothing else I can do." And it sounds like maybe now you're in this season where that might also be something that's coming forward again of being like, I know you wanted to run this runway, but
Right.
are we in a space where we actually need to like reset a little bit to kind of get back into that space? And that's what it kind of sounds like you're moving into right now.
You're so right. Yes. The answer is yes, because it was definitely an awakening moment over the past, 6 to 9 months. I started getting my symptoms again. I
Mm,
started, all the things. And you're right. Like, it also makes you question, like, okay, what can I be doing differently? Can I lead differently? Can we structure differently? What changes do we have to make? Frankly, because it's not sustainable.
yeah.
For me
Yeah.
personally, like, I don't, if I continued on that path, I'm not really sure where physically or health wise I would be at the end of
Yeah.
that year. It wouldn't be good. And that would have meant that all this wasn't, it wasn't, it was for nothing,
Yeah.
and so you're right.
Yeah.
It's that time you just have to, clear things out, and restart again.
Yeah, it sounds like a question I love to ask is like, what keeps you grounded in the growth? Because I think
Mhm.
when we feel like when we're scaling, when I'm talking to like CEOs who are building these empires, I'm like, there's a fear. And I think for a lot of folks who aren't quite there yet, who haven't even gotten to that point, one of the
Right.
biggest fears I hear from them, and I think this kind of needs to trickle down from here down is like the fear of like what if I get too big and it crashes and I'm like well how
Right.
does it look like to be in that space to be like actually you can turn the faucet down a little bit and readjust, is that possible as scary as it
Yeah.
is it something we can do because I think a lot of folks who are getting growing and wanting to scale, that is a huge fear, especially for those living with chronic illness, because they're like, if that
Yeah.
happens, I'm going to be broke, like broken physically. And I don't
In
want that to
every way.
happen. Right.
That's right. That's right. And I'll let you know on the flip side, because that's exactly what we're doing right now we're trying to turn down the faucet,
Mm,
because it really, like, following COVID, and it
yeah.
blew up in all the great ways that
Yeah.
you want it to. And with that comes a price tag.
Mm,
And then you start to realize, okay, well, to stay focused and to stay growing and to stay who we want to stay,
yeah.
what changes do we need to make? And is it taking on a bunch of capital and growing as fast as we can and trying to sell it? Or is it taking a pause, remembering who we are, and stay, true to who we are? And that might mean slowing the growth
Hmm.
just a touch to make sure everything that we're doing is intentional. And that's what we chose to do. We
Yeah.
chose to keep it intentional, because I'd like to be here for the long haul.
Mm,
The goal wasn't to just hurry up and build something fast and quickly sell it. And the goal is to be around for a long time and continue to make products that people need.
yeah.
And to do that, we have to stay true to who we are and not dilute what we built. So I'm hoping that that's the right decision. It
Yeah.
seems to be working okay. So
Yeah.
for anybody contemplating that, so far so good. We're all right. We're all
I
right.
I think you'll be
We might have to do
fine.
a 6-month check-in, but we're
Check
good
in,
today,
yeah.
Nikita. We're good today.
I think you'll be fine. Something that I have, just my part of my
Mhm.
mission and part of my like goal is, I get that people burn out in their businesses, and I get it. Like, I know that happens.
Yeah,
But I would like for people to be like, I never burnt out. I just
right,
grew differently. And
right,
that is where I want to continue to grow. And like, I
right.
get that we're going to do things where it's like, oh, that was maybe not the best decision. I think for those of
Right.
us living with chronic illness, there's a tendency when we take those pauses to feel like now we have to catch up. So we make a lot of decisions
Yes.
based on catching up, right? Like this fear of like, I'm already behind. So we make some of these decisions in that space. I call it the fear paradigm space. We're making those decisions from that space. And that's what
Right.
ultimately I feel like creates the burnout. It creates
Yes.
the like
Yes.
all these decisions. And I just hope that when people hear these conversations, they hear it and say, "Oh, okay, there's a different way I can do this, and my foundations matter, and your why matters,
Right.
and the reason why you're doing what you're doing matters, and so do you. Like you, the person running the business, matters, right?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, all of those things. Yes, because without that, I think it's easy to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get swallowed up in the whole process. And it can be dangerous,
Mm,
dangerous for health, dangerous financially, dangerous for all the things. And I love what you said about, you're right about making decisions from a place of fear. And I've found in my experience, every time I do that, it doesn't end up the way that I would like it
mm,
to. And that sometimes taking the extra beat, the extra moment to dial it
yeah.
down, remove the fear, wait till you can make a sound decision, whether it's health wise or for the business. It tends to always be the better choice. It's just hard to learn how to do that
Yeah.
when you feel like you said, you're always trying to catch up. I love that you said that, because
Yeah.
I think so many of us, especially with chronic illness, can probably relate to that.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, well, if I take tomorrow to like reset and like get myself like physically and health wise back on track, what will the next day look like? Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, but if you can reset that thinking to like, maybe the next day will be even more productive,
Yeah.
because right, but that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard to reset your mindset.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, no, it is really a challenge, especially if that's the way you've been thinking. That's the way
Correct.
you've been operating. I think it's
That's
really
right.
difficult.
That's
Um,
right.
Steph, can you tell me, I keep calling you Steph because you remind me of a good friend I just call Steph. And I'm like,
I'm
Steph,
good with it.
okay, good.
My good friends call me Steph too.
Oh, okay, sweet. Do you what is one thing you want us to know about your product and about what your dreams are for it going forward in the space that's like grounded in where you really wanted it to be?
Right. Well, I think what I'd love people to know is really our mission and what makes us different, because I think there's a lot of clutter and a lot
Mm.
of things happening in the beauty industry right now, and it's can be a confusing space as a customer and as a business owner for sure. So I think for me, really staying true to who we are and that being the message that people can take away is that if you are searching for something that you haven't been able to find, maybe you're dealing with something health wise, or maybe it's just a lifestyle choice,
Mm.
that you can come to our brand and feel confident that you can find a solution on in our assortment.
Mm.
Because not only am I saying that, but we've gone through all the extensive testing and the third party credentials to prove that out from
Mhm.
a clean ingredient safety, efficacy. We really credential everything that we say specifically because it's built for people that have a need. And
Yeah.
we want people to trust what they're putting on their skin and not just what we're saying. Marketing can be crazy. We all know that. So,
Yeah.
so I think for me that's like the most important thing is for people to feel like they can find a solution on our shelf and feel really confident in putting it on their skin or their family skin.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah, so you can go and, like, connect with Solara and the company. We'll have everything in the show notes so for you guys to go check out where we can find you, where are you in stores or online and all of that jazz. I have
Yeah,
one more question for you.
sure.
What is something that you believed at the very beginning of this journey that you thought 100% is true, that now you know, nope, that it was not true at all?
Well, that's a great question. Oh my goodness. Do we have a few more
Yeah.
hours? I'm like, oh, there are
It's
so
probably
many
so
things,
many
my
of them,
friend.
yeah.
There are so many things. Where do I even start? Um, no, I think for me, I don't know. I thought that owning my own business, my own brand was going to be a bit more linear.
Mm,
That it was going to be really hard in the beginning and then kind of get easier as we grew and I learned more and all the things. And I would say that's not been the case at all. Every day is a new adventure, learning experience, and it's more of a up and down every single day.
mm,
And I think if I knew that sooner, I would have felt a little bit more confident in my own abilities.
mm.
Because when that happens to you and you don't realize that's the way that it goes when you own a business,
Yeah,
you think you're doing something wrong. You're second guessing and I think that's something that I'd want my previous version of myself to know is
yeah.
that this is actually normal. The up and down is never going to change if you're building something special. And so,
I love
yeah,
that you shared that. I needed to hear that reminder because I know that to be true, but I needed to hear that. That's, part of the reason why I
yeah,
started asking that question because there's a lot of messaging that will tell us about things and we're thinking there's only one way to do one thing and you're like but there isn't, that you've seen it work
that's
for
right.
other people and you see companies ebbing and flowing, but somehow we get in our head like no, you're failing because you're down this month, this part of the
Yeah.
year, right?
That's right, or you have one upset customer or one
Mm,
account that you wanted to get, but they said no, or the truth is in 6 months from now, they could say yes, so these are things that I think if I knew then, maybe I'd be less hard on myself, and I think the social media too has been such a blessing
mm,
in the fact that I can connect with community and my
mm.
brand can be shared in places that I could never afford to advertise, like back
Yeah,
in the old days. The downside of it as an entrepreneur or someone building something with chronic illness is that sometimes it is easy, even as a grown adult, to forget that you're seeing the highlights. And so to
yeah,
not compare someone's journey because every journey looks completely different. And most of the time, it's not as upward as maybe you would think for
yeah.
others as well.
I feel
So,
like I really want to tell people
mhm.
there are more lows than there are highs. Just be
Yes,
prepared for that and be like, that's
yes.
normal. That's actually normal.
Yeah, see, I needed to hear that today because 'cause it's been a day. It's been a Monday, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, why did I do this again?" No,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. I really like that you said that because it is true.
Yeah. It,
But the highs are what keeps us going, and we hope that eventually it evens out, right?
yeah, and it really does. It really does. It's just I think the expectation. we're not
That's right.
failing. We're just becoming. We're just moving through. We're just growing through. And it's such a good reminder. And I think for those of us living
Yeah.
with chronic illness, we also make it mean that our chronic illness is making this even harder, 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 harder. And it's like, well, I think it's hard for other people too.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of hard, but they are also
Right.
having lows. They are also
Right.
having this ups and downs kind of experience. And I don't want to give my chronic illness more power than it already has to give it all this credit
Right.
for creating the mayhem that's also life, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
I'm glad that you shared that for you too. It's like, yeah, it's not all ups and down. Like just not all up.
No, it's not all up, and it doesn't get easier, just the challenges become different. That's really
So
what it
true.
is, and it's just learning how to navigate that with less stress in your mind and your body,
Yeah.
and that's a daily learning process.
Absolutely. Well, I so appreciate you coming on and chatting
Likewise,
with
I
me.
appreciate you having
This
me.
was fabulous. I feel like the last time I talked to you when we were like doing a pre-chat, I was like, I feel like I can talk to you forever.
Oh, I love it. I feel the same way. We need to do this more often, my friend, because you know what? Maybe we would both like feel, okay, all right, I can now tackle tomorrow. I'm
Yes.
not alone here.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, if everybody wants to find you, tell them real quick. Well, of course, we'll have this in the show notes.
Yes.
Where can they find
Mhm.
you online?
So on our website, it's solarasuncare.com, which is also our handle for social medias at Solara Suncare. And we have products from Blue Mercury to Whole Foods and Target if you want to buy us online as well.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So excited.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me. It was so great to talk to you.